Hey, I'm actually making a video for once, and focus not on the scruffiness of my hair or my beard, but on the subject matter of this video. Yeah. I play this game a lot. I'm 360 hours in, I've 100% a single player and Octo expansion, and I'm working on my 4th X rank. So considering that I've seen almost everything this game has to offer, I've formed some opinions, so yeah, let's talk about that. The online sucks! It's functional, it's alright about 60% of the time, but the other 40% is just atrocious. Play for any extended period of time, and you'll encounter a number of problems. Teleporting squids, shots firing after death, and the most problematic one, disconnects. You're going to get DCs, you're going to DC, just accept it. Aside from the fact that there's no reinstancing or match canceling system in Splatoon 2, meaning you're forced to play uneven matches after they start no matter what, the fact that we're going to have to pay for these horrible online experiences come the end of this month really infuriates me. Maybe they'll introduce dedicated servers for Nintendo Switch Online once that rolls out, but I honestly don't think they will. But hey, Nintendo, prove me wrong, please. Please? Turf War. Sucks! I've met few people that actually like Turf War late into the game, and when they do like Turf War, it's not because it's a fun game mode to play objectively, it's because it's the game mode that doesn't matter. You paint the map and whoever has the most turf covered at the end wins. Screw the pushes and counter pushes that you have to perform to lock down areas of the map. Screw the amount of time you spent actually painting the map. Once you fail once in the last 30 seconds, you've lost the entire match and your efforts go to waste. Not to mention that it's literally just painting the map. The first minute is just covering areas that'll go uncovered. Who the hell is going to run into your basic contender team in the first minute? When even if they win an engagement, it'll be repainted because your spawn is right there. And then after an uncomfortable amount of time has passed, then you get to the part where you have to fight other players. Of course, you can just try to run in and get splats, but that's not really playing the objective. It's not fun to do well and then get jebaited. It's not fun to watch because you're just watching people get jebaited. It's not fun to play competitively because even if you're incredibly skilled, you're just gonna end up getting jebaited. It's just people getting jebaited. And that's probably why everyone hates Turf War. That's probably a part of the reason why people throw freaking squid parties. It's dumb. And that's why it's baffling that the large competitive event that happens monthly is based on wins and losses only gained in turf. You know what I'm talking about, and this really hits home for me. Splatfest suck! I love Splatfest teas, I love Super Sea Snails, I hate Splatfests. Don't get me wrong, the idea is grand. Splitting the entire player base and pitting teams against each other is an awesome idea, but why would you limit it to the most disliked game mode for an entire day? And why would you overcomplicate the way the winner is chosen? Screw popularity, that shouldn't matter. Screw squad win percentages versus solo win percentages. Wins versus losses, that's all that should matter. It's always a reverse sweep. The team that has less players is more likely to win, I mean. And when it's not a reverse sweep, the losers lose because they were forced to play against their team. I understand that the reason you pit a team against itself is to limit game search times, but when you're trying to determine which team is the true victor, and there's a reward that's variable based on whether or not your team wins or loses, that just makes the time when the more popular team just barely loses feel really cheap. See Squid versus Octopus. I'm still freaking salty about that one. Salmon Run. I still hate that it's in a rotation. Sometimes I don't want to play turf or competitive. Sometimes I just want to play some Salmon Run, you know? Maybe get a few rewards along the way, some equipment, or some ability chunks, but I can't because it's on a rotation. So instead of playing the game, I just put it down and walk away. Not because I want to, but because the devs don't want me to play the game mode that I want to. I still don't understand the benefit of this or the reasoning behind it. It's not a seasonal thing. It's not a special treat for every now and then. It's Salmon Run. It's an integral part of the game for a lot of people, especially if you're into gear farming and you're just not allowed to play it for some reason. Like, why? It's dumb. And speaking of gear farming, it takes way too long. In Splatoon 1, Pure Luck decided whether or not you get a good piece of gear. You did have a higher chance of getting a specific gear trait if you made sure that you picked gear brands that gave you a higher chance of rolling your preferred trait, but other than that, you were completely out of control. Not to mention that getting a Super Sea Snail to reroll your gear after Splatfest ended costed 30k currency a pop, which is ridiculous. In comparison, gear farming is now much more manageable in Splatoon 2. It's also possible for the layman to accomplish now, but it still takes way too long to get a decent piece of gear. You have to invest many hours, sometimes even days, to get the specific traits on any specific piece of gear that you want. Chunks can be gathered passively by just playing your games, and scrubbing your gear every now and then. But doing so like that will yield in a much longer ROI. Whereas if you do it actively by wearing a full set of throwaway gear with brands that have a higher chance to give you the chunks that you'd like, you're gonna have a much better time, but even then it's gonna take way too long. Even with Krusty Sean tickets, which by the way, are not as effective as they should be. And I'd like to remind you that having the right gear can give you the advantage in a desperate situation or even make or break a weapon. For example, I don't recommend that you play the Splattershot Jr. unless you have at least 2 mains and 1 sub of Inksaber sub, because without that, you can't throw 2 splat bombs and you'd just be better off playing an Enzap. And I also recommend that you throw at least 2 mains of run speed, more likely 3 actually, that's what I prefer, on any splat lane, especially the ballpoint in the Nautilus, because when you're firing, you're just kind of a sitting duck otherwise. Because of the ridiculous amount of time you need to spend to make decent gear, I see a lot of people just ignoring their stats, which is lame because personalizing your Inkling or Octoling is a huge part of the experience. But I don't blame them because not everyone has time to play like 8 hours a day, just for one stupid piece of gear. My biggest recommendation would be to allow players to shred unwanted gear to attain chunks. That way, currency doesn't just pile up and go unused, shopping will play an even bigger role, and the entire process wouldn't be so reliant on Super Sea Snails. And while you're at it, lower the amount of chunks needed to slot in abilities. And don't make Super Sea Snails cost 30k again when Splatfest ends. Really, that was stupid. Customizing gear should be realistically accessible. Not necessarily easy, but not tedious either. Ranking up. Way too easy. And before everyone that has trouble maintaining S rank gets on my case, let me explain. In Splatoon 1, the ranking system was point-based and went solely off of wins versus losses. This was a much harsher system, a little too harsh if memory serves, but it was fair. If you ranked up, it felt like an accomplishment because to reach a rank, you had to attain a fair level of consistency, and if you stopped being consistent, you were punished for it. Cut to Splatoon 2, and we've been given this stupid bar. To fill the bar, you need to win matches. Win about 8 to 10 matches and you rank up. If you lose a match, you'll be given either a crack or a shake. Reach 4 cracks and your bar breaks, causing you to D-rank. On average, that takes about 8 losses. Though D-ranking can be avoided altogether if you reach the OK line before your bar breaks. Usually takes about 4 to 5 wins in the higher ranks. If the bar breaks after you reach the OK line, you'll maintain rank and receive a new bar that's slightly filled based on how far along your old bar was. This bar, again, is stupid. It's a failsafe more than anything. In the lower ranks, I think it's not that bad actually. The OK line sets at 40% of the bar, and that's actually enough from a player early on in my opinion. The problem is, the bar only changes once. Once you reach S+0, the OK line sits at 50% instead of 40, but it stays like that all the way through the S ranks. So if you're S+9, aka in the gateway to X, the highest rank in the game with a ranking system of its own, you can have just as easy of a time as you did in S+0 simply because nothing more is asked of you. You're not even required to win more games, the bar never gets longer or anything, it's always the same amount. I think that's completely absurd because think about it. When the OK line sits at 50% of the bar, it takes about 4 to 5 wins to reach it. That's in comparison to the 8 losses it takes to break the bar. If you can't win 4 games before losing 8 in the higher ranks, do you honestly deserve to keep your rank? If for every win you get, you lose 2 games, do you deserve to keep your rank? That's what I'm saying. Not to mention, with the abundance of DCs that happen, you're likely to get a free win here or there. So instead of a rank representing your ability to play consistently, it instead represents how long you've played the game. There's no prestige to the ranks anymore. It's all blurry and undefined. Like, yeah, an S+5 is probably better than an A+, but I couldn't for the life of me tell you by how much. Compare this to Overwatch. Flawed in its own right, but I can tell you for sure that there's a sizable gap between a Diamond player and a Grandmaster. Simply because the win-loss ratio required to keep GM is much higher, and the amount of games they've had to play is likely much larger. And then, finally, we have the most disappointing and infuriating part for me personally, and that is X rank. It's a complete joke, not nearly as prestigious as people make it out to be. It's too easy to reach if you play enough, see previous video section, and it's so inconsistent that at times it's really defeating. When you play a good game in Rank X, it really feels amazing. There are genuinely a lot of really skilled players in Rank X, but that's just because this is the highest rank. There are also really inexperienced players and players that aren't that consistent like me. A lot of the time I feel like I haven't even earned my place in rank X, even though I know I'm very experienced, because the skill gap between the top players and me is insanely high. But again, I've realized that all you need to reach it is a little experience and a lot of time. That doesn't mean you'll keep rank X, of course. It's a lot easier to drop out thanks to it being point-based. But let's say you do deserve rank X. You're the cream of the crop, you represent the top 1% perfectly. Guess what? Rank X doesn't give a damn. The matchmaker seems to prioritize quick matchmaking over fair matchmaking. It really does feel like every game is just a mixed bag of whoever reaches X. A lot of the time, the games are completely fair, well-balanced tests of skill, but other times they're just complete stompings. And on top of that, since the game doesn't really care about how much X power each team has on average, the amount of X power you gain or lose from a match varies wildly. Even if your match was completely fair, hard fought even, you could be rewarded with a meaty, fantastic +1 X power. And guess what? Let's say you played a match that was barely a loss, a game with even team skill, a game that was decided in overtime. It's not unrealistic to lose 42 X power off of that. What? Or more. I've lost more. So in reality, it's not that far-fetched to have a win ratio that's really high, like 65, 70%, and lose more points than you gain on average. It's all up to chance. So yeah, it takes a while to get to rank X, yeah, it feels nice to get to it, and yeah, at times it feels really good to play matches in it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that great. I'm so tired of the inconsistency, and I hate the fact that even though I've reached the highest rank of the game, that it says very little about me as a player. It's not, oh, I reach rank X again every time I reach it, it's, oh, I reach rank X again. Cool. And it's not just me that's unhappy with it. Ask the majority of the Splatoon 2 Twitch community that's in rank X, and I bet they'll sing a similar song. It's just really unfortunate that this game is plagued with all these problems, because at its core, it's this well-crafted, wildly replayable masterpiece that I love dearly. There's not a single game that I can think of that could scratch the itch that this one does. It's just so creative and unique. I imagine this is similar to what Team Fortress 2 players actually feel. Yeah! But to be fair, we get more than 2 updates per year. Angry persona aside, I'm probably going to play this game for a long time to come. So this isn't the worst in reality, but I just wish this game would reach at least some of its hidden potential, as always. So please, if you like this video, if you even just like the idea of this video, spread it around, get the word out. And if that's too much for you, please just talk about these topics in a place where people can see it. Start a simple conversation. It's healthy for the community, and considering how much the game has changed due to community feedback, this could mean the difference between a Splatoon 2 that's almost exactly the same and a Splatoon 2 or 3, hopefully, that meets and exceeds community expectations. So thank you for listening to me whine, and thank you for watching the video. Have anything to add? Maybe your hot take on Splatoon 2 competitive or anything, really? Why not comment that down below? Did you like this video? If so, why not like it? And if you really like this video, why not subscribe and follow me on my socials, especially my Twitch. We have fun there. New videos on the way, streams every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, updates on Twitter. That's about it. I'm gone. Bye.